A Manual of Self-Awareness. Luangpor Teean Jitta Subo. Foreword. Throughout the 30 years of his teaching, Punninta Pyu, later known as Luangpor Teean Jitta Subo, pointed out the true essence of truth, which is latent in everyone, without exception, regardless of nationality, religion, sex or age. If the practice is performed correctly, one can see, know and understand the truth, as the Buddha did. The method is to cultivate self-awareness, that is, being aware of bodily movements, being aware of the movement of the mind. If one practices correctly and continuously, jnana paññā, insight, will arise until the suffering comes to an end. We agreed to edit the teaching from various occasions and consolidate them into one source, so that they can be used as the manual for anyone who is interested. The contents of this book are the essence of Luangpor Teean's doctrines, practical techniques as well as how to solve problems and obstacles that may occur. The fruits of practicing are included as a guideline in the appendix. We wish to thank to everyone who has helped in making this book possible. Luangpor Teean Jitta Subo Foundation. Brief biography of Luangpor Teean Jitta Subo. Luangpor Teean Jitta Subo, or Punninta Pyu, was born on the 5th of September 1911, at Bu Home, Ampar Chiang Khan in the province of Loei. He was the son of Jean and Sominta Pyu. His father died when he was young. Since there was no school in the small village of Bu Home, he did not have formal education in his childhood. The boy, like the rest of them in the village, had to help his mother in running their farm. At the age of 11, he was ordained as a novice at the village monastery, and stayed there with his uncle who was a resident monk. During a year and 6 months in the monastery, he studied Laotian scripts and ancient local scripts. He also started practicing various meditation methods, such as the Phudu and breath-counting methods. After disrobing, he returned to his home. Following tradition, he was ordained as a monk at the age of 20. Again, he studied and practiced meditation with his uncle for 6 months. After returning to lay life, he was married at 22 and had 3 sons. In his village, he was always a leader in Buddhist activities, and was highly respected and chosen to be the head of the village, on 3 different occasions. Despite of heavy responsibilities, he continued his meditation practice regularly. Later he moved to Chiang Khan, a larger community, where his sons could attend school. Being a merchant, he sailed his steamboat along the Mekong River between Chiang Khan, Nong Khai, Vientiane, or even as far as Luang Prabang. He had opportunities to meet several meditation masters, and his enthusiasm in pursuing Dhamma, the truth, continued to strengthen. Furthermore, he began to realize that many years of being good, making merit, and practicing various methods of meditation had not liberated him from his anger. Finally, he determined to start searching for the way out. In 1957, when he was nearly 46, he left his home with firm determination not to return unless he found the truth. He went to Wat Rang Si Mukdaram, Thumban Pun Prao, Ampar Tabor in Nong Khai province, Ampar Si Chiang Mai at present, and practiced a simple form of bodily movements, except that he did not follow the recitation of the words Thing Ning, moving stopping, like others did. What he did was only being aware of the movements of the body and mind. Within a couple of days, on the early morning of the 11th day of the waxing moon, the 8th month of 1957, his mind reached the end of suffering completely without traditional rituals or teachers. Later he returned home. He taught his wife and relatives what he had found for 2 years and 8 months, as a lay teacher. He then decided to re-enter monkhood, in order to be in a better position to teach the people. The ordination was made on the 3rd of February, 1960. His teachings were spreading across the country as well as outside. He devoted his life to the teaching of Dhamma despite his poor health. He was diagnosed to have stomach cancer, malignant lymphoma, in 1982. In spite of his illness, he continued his work actively and incisively, until the end of his life. On the 13th of September 1988 at 6:15 p.m., he passed away calmly at the age of 77, in a hut on Ko Buddha Dhamma, Tup Ming Kwan, Thumban Gudpong, in Loei Province. Introduction. 1. The Dhamma, the truth, which I am talking, belongs to everybody. It does not belong particularly to any religion, whether Buddhism, Brahmanism or Christianity, nor to any nationality, whether Thai, Chinese, French, English, American, Japanese or Taiwanese. Anyone who realizes it, possesses it. One who realizes it, possesses it. One who does not realize it, does not possess it. It exists in everybody regardless of his religion. Having realized it, you cannot prohibit others from cultivating it. Having realized it, you cannot destroy it, because it is indestructible. Nothing can destroy it. It is impossible to stop others from realizing it because one who cultivates it will realize himself. One having realized, it is impossible to destroy because is so all the time. 2. Man himself is religion. Dhamma is in man. Man is Dhamma. The ancients said, heaven or hell, is in the mind, so is nirvana. The extinction of all defilements and suffering. Where is the mind? Have you ever seen the mind? If you have never seen it, you should practice until you know what the mind is. Hell is mental suffering or unhappiness. When it fades away, we are in heaven. Whenever anger occurs, we then revert to hell. 3. The Buddha nature is the mind that is clean, clear, calm, pure, bright and quick. This kind of mind exists in everybody without exception. Water and mud are not the same thing. It is the mud that makes the water look turbid, but the water itself is clear. Our mind is the same. If we realize this, we will gradually follow the path. The Buddha nature is the mind that is clean, clear, calm and pure. When the mind is pure, the mud cannot pollute the water anymore. When the mind is bright, the mud will transform into sediment, and break through the bottom. When the mind is quick, it is light and can see everything. The mundane Dhamma, worldly truth, and the transcendent Dhamma, ultimate truth, are in coexistence. If we really realize the latter, then we can distinguish them from each other. If we do not realize it, we cannot make a distinction. 4. The Dhamma that made Siddhartha become an Arahant or the Buddha, existed prior to him. It is the neutral mind that exists at the moment, neither being happy nor sad. While you are listening to me now, how is your mind? It is neutral. Are you conscious of this state of mind? If you are conscious of this neutral mind, this is what we call calmness. You can work, talk or think anything. This kind of mind requires no effort. It can be easily taught, but one who does not understand it, tends to make something easy unnecessarily difficult, or something simple to be complicated. This neutral mind, is natural and, requires no effort. Everybody has this kind of mind, but we have never looked before. It is called Upekar, equanimity. 5. Man is born to think. He thinks this and that endlessly. Thoughts flow all the time like a stream. Thought is the quickest thing. It is quicker than lighting or anything. Suffering arises because we do not see thought. Thought itself is not suffering. When thought arises, we do not see, know and understand it simultaneously, so greed, anger, or delusion arises, and brings us suffering. In fact, there is no greed, anger or delusion. They occur because we do not see the source of the mind. 6. So let us cultivate self-awareness. When thought arises, we see, know and understand it. It is sati, samadhi, panya, awareness, attention, insight. We call it self-awareness. Whenever we are aware, thought cannot concoct. If we do not see it, it will concoct endlessly. This method is the shortest way to sudden enlightenment. Part 1. Cultivating self-awareness. Self-awareness. Let us be aware of the movements of the body, for example, while we are blinking, be aware, while we are breathing, be aware. When thought arises, be aware. This is what we call sati, or self-awareness. Self-awareness is invaluable. We cannot buy it, nor can anyone cultivate it for others. For example, when I am clenching my hand, is anyone conscious of my feeling? No one is. Outwardly, you can see I am making a fist, but you are not conscious of my feeling. Similarly, when someone is making a fist, I can see but I am not conscious of his feeling. Rhythmic movements. There are certain techniques to do certain jobs in order to achieve the end. In the same way, the cultivating of self-awareness to achieve sati, samadhi, panya, awareness, attention, insight, needs technique too. Do not sit still. Move rhythmically all the time. Do not close your eyes. You can sit in any position or on a chair, stand or lie down. Now I will suggest the method to you. See illustrations. 1. Rest the hands palm down on the thighs. 2. Turn the right hand onto its edge, be aware, do it slowly, then stop. Do not say to yourself turn the right hand, being aware is enough. 3. Raise the right hand up, be aware, then stop. 4. Lower the right hand to rest on the abdomen, be aware, then stop. 5. Turn the left hand onto its edge, be aware, then stop. 6. Raise the left hand up, be aware, then stop. 7. Lower the left hand to rest on the right hand, be aware, then stop. 8. Move the right hand up to rest on the chest, be aware, then stop. 9. Move the right hand out, be aware, then stop. 10. Lower the right hand onto its edge on the thigh, be aware, then stop. 11. Face the right palm down, be aware, then stop. 12. Move the left hand up to rest on the chest, be aware, then stop. 13. Move the left hand out, be aware, then stop. 14. Lower the left hand onto its edge on the thigh, be aware, then stop. 15. Face the left palm down, be aware, then stop. This is a practical way of cultivating self-awareness. We do not have to study the scriptures because they are only words. Studying the scriptures is not the way to enlightenment. This practice is the way to enlightenment. There are 8 steps of rhythmic movement in standing, 7 steps in sitting down. We should also be aware in other positions, such as lying on our left side, right side, or lying flat on our back, getting up from the left side, from the right side, and from lying flat on our back. You should cultivate self-awareness frequently. Walking back and forth, Jungama walking. After sitting for a long time, which may cause pains and aches, we can change the position to the walking back and forth. After walking for a long time, we can change to the sitting posture. This is called changing the positions, sitting, lying, standing, walking. You should allot them properly. Do not move the arms while walking. We should fold the arms across the chest, or clasp the hands behind the back. While you are walking back and forth, be aware of the feeling or the feet. It is not necessary to say to yourself, right foot moves, left foot moves. Do not walk too fast or too slow, walk naturally. Be aware while you are walking. If you walk without self-awareness, it is useless. Cultivating self-awareness in daily life. To cultivate self-awareness, we must practice as much as possible. We can practice even when we get in a car, or on a bus. While we are sitting on a bus or in a car, we lay our hand on the thigh, and turn the palm up and down, or we run the thumb over the fingertip, or we make a fist and open it repeatedly. Do it slowly and be aware. Wherever or whenever you practice, take it easy like playing. Only move one hand at a time, do not move both hands at the same time. If you move the right hand, do not move the left hand. If you move the left hand, do not move the right hand. Someone might say, I am very busy. I do not have time to practice, or I cannot do it, I am not pure enough. These are excuses. If we intend to do something, we can find time to do it. Whatever we do, be aware. For example, if you are a teacher, when you pick up a pen, pick it up with awareness. While you are writing, be aware. This is the natural way of cultivating self-awareness, learning Dhamma with nature. While you are having a meal, pick up the spoon, be aware, take the food into your mouth, be aware. While you are chewing food, be aware, swallowing food, be aware. Practice continuously like a chain. I guarantee the teachings of the Buddha, and the method I teach. I guarantee what I am saying, if you are serious enough and practice continuously, like a chain or the hands of the clock that rotate all the time. To practice continuously like a chain or like the rotating hands of the clock, does not mean that you have to cultivate self-awareness, by doing rhythmic arm movement, or walking back and forth all the time. The word to practice all the time means to be aware while doing all daily tasks, washing clothes, sweeping floor, cleaning house, washing dishes, writing, or buying and selling, just be aware. This awareness will accumulate little by little like the raindrops fall into a good container, and fill it to the brim. When we walk forwards or backwards, move the hand in or out, be aware. When we go to bed, we can make a fist and open it repeatedly until we fall asleep. When we wake up, we should continue our practice. This is called cultivating self-awareness. Summary. Practice the rhythmic movements continuously like a chain, as the Buddha taught. Be aware of it at every moment, standing, walking, sitting, lying, bending or stretching. When you practice the rhythmic movement, turning the palm up and down, raising the hand, lowering the hand, be aware. When you are nodding, and raising your head, be aware, leaning to the left, leaning to the right, blinking the eyes, opening the mouth, breathing in and out, be aware. When thought arises, be aware. Be aware of the movements all the time. Do not sit still. This is the technique of cultivating self-awareness. The essence of practice, a handful leaves Dhamma, is being aware of the movement of the body and the movements of the mind. I guarantee, if you practice continuously and seriously as I have taught, in at most 3 years, suffering will end. It may take only 1 year. For some people it may take only 1 to 90 days. The result is that suffering will decrease, or cannot disturb you anymore. Part 2. Walking on the path. Be sure that our objective in practicing Dhamma is self-knowledge. We should start from the basic stage and go step by step as the Buddha taught. If we do not follow this way, there will be no progress in our practice. Basic stage. For the beginners, doing rhythmic arm movement is better than walking back and forth. Move the arm rhythmically, slowly, gently and lightly. When it stops, be aware of it. When it is moving, be aware of it. If you move the arm too fast, you cannot catch up with the bodily feeling that arises, because the awareness is not strong enough. We should practice continuously, regardless of tiredness. If we think we are tired and take a break, there will be no chain of continuity. After you have realized something called Rup Nam, body-mind, then you can walk back and forth. You must really realize it. When thoughts arise, do not stop them. Let them flow, do not follow them but come back to Rup Nam. Always be aware of Rup Nam. Sometimes, PT, rapture, will arise. PT will carry us away from being aware of Rup Nam. As long as we are not aware of Rup Nam, our mind will be gradually dulled. Thoughts will arise, let them arise freely. You might feel dizzy or suffocated, if you suppress them. Be relaxed, do not worry whether you are aware or not. The first stage that one will realize is Rup Nam objects. These are Rup, body, Nam, mind, Rup acting, Nam acting, etc. See the appendix. One should review backwards and forwards, over and over. While we are reviewing these objects, thoughts will arise. Let them go. Whenever we are aware, the mind will stay with Rup Nam objects. Review them backwards and forwards, until they are embedded in the mind. When thoughts arise, sometimes we are carried away by them, which might make walking or doing rhythmic movement faster or quicker. We should be aware and slow down. It does not matter how long it takes. Seeing thought-mind stage. After one has realizes Rup Nam objects completely, one should keep on observing thoughts. Speed up the rhythmic arm movement or walk faster. Do not suppress thoughts. Practice with ease. Observe thoughts with ease. Whenever thought arises, whether gladness or sorrows, be aware of the bodily movements, then thought will stop immediately. Generally, when thought arises, the mind will be dragged along, like a kitten trying to catch a big rat. The rat, thought, is bigger and stronger than the kitten, awareness. When the rat shows up, the kitten, by nature, will catch the rat. The rat is frightened and runs away with the kitten holding on. After a while the kitten becomes tired and let the rat go. Similarly, thoughts will arise endlessly and stop by themselves. As we cultivate self-awareness more and more, it is like we keep feeding a kitten until it becomes a big, strong cat. When thought arises, the mind will not be dragged along, and thought will stop immediately. If thought arises powerfully, we have to clench our fist tightly, or do whatever actions that suit us. If it is strong enough, then thought will stop by itself. Keep on practicing. Whenever thought arises, you will be aware of it immediately. As I have often told you, if there are two men and one chair, the man who is stronger and quicker will occupy the chair. When we cultivate self-awareness more and more, this self-awareness will replace the unawareness, so the unawareness will gradually decrease. Let thoughts arise. The more thoughts arise, the more we are aware. When self-awareness increases more and more, it will catch up with thoughts. Suppose that 100 thoughts arise, we are aware of only 10 but we are not aware of the other 90. Next, thoughts are 100, we are aware of only 20 but not the other 80. We continue our practice until we are aware of 80 but not the other 20. Now, we are aware of 90 thoughts, then 95. When we are aware of 95 out of 100, we should practice earnestly. Do not be discouraged or slack or sleep during the daytime. When thought arises, we are aware of it immediately again and again. Our mind will change at this point. The path starts from here. It is the beginning of nirvana. Formerly, the mind was in the dark and did not know the path. When it can overtake thoughts, then the mind will be illuminated. This light is not the external light, that can be viewed by the naked eye. The mind itself is free and illuminated. It is called wisdom eye, the arising of Punyayana of Vipassana, insight. We should continue practicing rhythmic arm movement or walking back and forth. We can practice at any speed we like. Keep on practicing. Let Punya, insight, itself penetrate the objects of insight. There is no need to learn from any teacher or scripture. When Punya penetrates the objects of insight, the mind will be free step by step. There are 5 steps. The first jhana, the stage of seeing, knowing and touching the objects of insight with the mind, the second jhana, the third jhana, the fourth jhana, and the fifth jhana, respectively. When we know, see, and understand these objects of insight, thought will arise quicker. When we reach the last step, jnana will arise by itself. Once I attained this state, I understood the saying that the Lord Buddha has his hair cut only once. Whenever you have attained this, you could understand it. You cannot know it beforehand. If you know it beforehand, that is knowledge of Jnana. It is not being. When I see, know, and understand this, I realized, oh, the Lord Buddha has his hair cut only once. That does not mean the real hair. It means this was cut off. As we fasten a rope tightly between 2 poles, when we cut it in the middle, each part will return to its pole and cannot be rejoined. We will know and see the change. It is absolutely light, as if it is weightless. It is the end. When it ends, jnana will arise, and one will realize the end of suffering. Recommendations. There are 2 kinds of thought. The thought that comes in a flash, then goes away. This kind of thought brings anger, greed, or delusion. The second kind is the thought that we deliberately think. This one does not bring anger, greed or delusion, because we intend to think with mindful knowledge. In this method, do not try to suppress thoughts. Let thoughts arise naturally. The more thoughts arise, the more we are aware. Some people feel annoyed with the distractions and worried that there is no samadhi, meditation. This is a misunderstanding. Distraction is a good thing because the more thoughts arise, the more we are aware. Keep on cultivating self-awareness earnestly, but do not concentrate. When thoughts arise, do not suppress them, but detach from them by being aware of the bodily movements. Self-awareness will replace the unawareness. Observing thought is the most important thing, which most people ignore. When thought arises, we begin to criticize or make comment on it. This means that we get into thought. It is not letting go of thought. It is knowing thought, not seeing thought. If we keep observing thoughts without any bodily movement, when thoughts arise, we will get into them easily. Therefore, it is necessary to be aware of the bodily movements. When thought arises, we will see, we will know. Whenever we see ghosts, deities, Buddha images, crystal balls or even the Lord Buddha, that is not true seeing. It happens because the mind wanders away. We do not see the thought, so the mind concocts by itself. It concocts because we do not see the source of thoughts. When thought arises without our seeing, it will conjure up ghosts, colors, lights, deities, hell or heaven. Whatever it is, we will see it as such. It is an illusion. It is the mind's trick. The seeing is true. What is seen is not true, so it cannot free the mind. Only if we see realities, the mind will be free from suffering. This is the shortest path. When thought arises, be aware of it immediately. This is the authentic Dhamma practice. Doing the rhythmic movement is only the technique, which can help to see thought. Part 3. Obstacles and Solutions. There are some obstacles in this method. I will recommend you how to solve these obstacles that may occur to the practitioner. Strain, dizziness, giddiness, suffocation. When we first begin our practice, we tend to concentrate. We want to know, see, be and have. This is not the right understanding. If you know, see, be, and have, you might get strain, dizziness, giddiness or suffocation. This is not the correct practice. When thoughts arise so much, we do not like it and try to suppress them. This brings us trouble. The correct method is practicing with ease. Look far away and cultivate self-awareness lightly and gently. Do not concentrate. Move or walk comfortably and rhythmically with awareness. Drowsiness. If you feel sleepy while practicing, you should change to another kind of work, for example, weeding, washing your face, taking a bath, washing clothes. We should find a way to avoid the obstacle. Calmness under unawareness. Calmness under unawareness is called PT, rapture, clinging to calmness. This is an obstacle. The cultivating of self-awareness is not to obtain this kind of calmness, but always be aware of the movements. Vipassana. After we have attained root-nam objects, this is the end of the basic stage. Someone will stop practicing because he thinks that he has attained the highest Dhamma. At this stage, knowledge will arise endlessly and we will be proud of this knowledge. When thoughts arise, he does not see them, and then gets into them. One who attaches to Vipassana will be talkative and arrogant. The knowledge of Vipassana will soon be forgotten and makes man too proud of himself. This is called Vipassana. The solution is, doing rhythmic movement with ease, do not concentrate or desire for the result. Do the movements lightly and gently. When thought arises, be aware of the bodily movements. Jintayana. When one realizes paramutta objects, see appendix, PT, rapture, will arise. One is delighted of this knowledge. In general, PT is good, but according to this method, PT is the obstacle of attaining the end of suffering. When PT arises, one will attach to it. We should do the bodily movements vigorously, and as much as we can, to turn the mind away from PT, and back to the movements. Do it slowly and rhythmically. When self-awareness increases more and more, PT will gradually fade away and the mind will return to the ordinary state. Suffocation, giddiness or strain may arise. We should practice with ease, look far away and move gently. We should not stop practicing because of these obstacles, but continue our practice earnestly. Do not sleep in daytime but rest at night. Vipassana. According to the texts, Vipassana means seeing false as true, hell as heaven, evil as good. Vipassana is the state of mind, when one discovers something excellent, and thinks that he can keep it. So he leaves self-awareness behind to get that thing. It is like it was stolen by a thief. When he starts looking for it, it is no longer there. It is hidden. One should not leave self-awareness, even at the end of suffering or whatsoever. I realized the end of suffering after I attained it. At that moment, I was in the state of Vipassana. I clung to ecstasy because I had never been like this before. I was walking back and forth and I felt like I was floating above the ground about 1 to 2 meters. Actually, I was walking on the ground. I clung to that ecstasy but it did not last for long. Then I was aware of myself, Why is it so? I began to review the objects of insight. At this stage, you should review the objects backwards and forwards, but this does not include root-nam objects. After reviewing the objects, the ecstasy will gradually fade away. The mind will return to the ordinary state. Summary. If there is strain, dizziness, giddiness, or suffocation, we should do the movements gently. Do not concentrate. Do it with ease, look far away, then the uncomfortable feelings will loosen by themselves. The solving method of Jnana is the same. Vipassana and Jnana must be solved by correcting the technique. Do not review the objects of insight. In the case of Vipassana, we must review the objects of insight, paramukta objects. Practice with ease. When the objects are clear, the strain will gradually decrease. Let thoughts arise, do not suppress them. When you practice, you must take care of yourself. Do not expect other people to take care of you. When anything that is not normal arises, you must stop practicing immediately. The abnormal state will gradually decrease by itself. Epilogue. 1. If we have right understanding, Dhamma practice will not be difficult. The truth that the Buddha taught exists in man. What he taught, everyone can do. 2. This method is easy. It is not necessary to study the scriptures, because the truth exists in man. Everyone can be aware of the movements of his own body and mind. Though we are not aware of ourselves, the bodies still move and thoughts arise, but we are not aware of them. The mind will conjure up unreality, if we are not aware of the movements of the body and the mind. This method is nothing other than being aware of the movements of the body and the mind. In other methods, there are many activities, for example, keeping precepts or practicing concentration. This method is not related to anything else. Why not? Because the truth exists within ourselves. 3. When we cultivate self-awareness, we should let every part of the body and the mind work naturally. Do not force them against their nature. This technique can be applied naturally, and does not do anything against the body's functions. Eyes, to see. Ears, to hear. Nose, to smell. The bodily movements must be done in a natural manner according to their functions. The mind generates thoughts, let it functions freely. Do not do anything against the natural functions of the body and the mind, but cultivate the self-awareness to catch up with the movements of the body and the mind. 4. There are two kinds of calmness. The first is the calmness under unawareness, a dull calmness like a brick or stone. It is called calmness without punya or calmness under delusion. The second is calmness with awareness. It may not be called calmness, but should be called enlightenment. This kind of calmness is calmness without anger, greed, delusion, calmness without ignorance, calmness without unawareness. Whatever you call it, it is only words. Calmness with awareness means we do not want anything else. We no longer seek for teachers, or methods or places. Calmness means cessation. 5. The rhythmic bodily movements and the cultivating of self-awareness cause punya. This punya does not arise from intellect. It arises from the law of nature. We call it jnana punya of Vipassana, wisdom of insight. What is the meaning of punya arising? It means punya arises from the realization of a set of insight formulas. It is not necessary to learn these formulas from the scriptures. This set of insight formulas means success which is within the formulas themselves, as diamond buried in the mud, after being sifted, only the diamond remains. We should practice until these formulas appear naturally and exists permanently. Everybody has this set of formulas within himself. After attaining the end of suffering, jnana will arise. Birth is extinguished, existence is extinguished, the religious life is complete, and there is nothing left to do. The studying of Buddhism ends here. 6. Cutting the hair only once means, the body returns to its original state, and the mind returns to its original state by the law of nature. This is neither long nor short. It is insipid, wonderful and respectable. You have never attained it before. Dhamma is not what you can imagine, you have to practice until attaining the state of being. Everyone should keep in mind that if we do not attain this state, when we are nearly died, about 1 to 2 seconds to 5 minutes before the last breath, we will experience this, then our breathing stops. This is the truth, the ultimate truth. Everyone must die and will experience this. If we do not realize this, we will live in the mundane world. If we realize this, it is the way out. When we see this birth-extinction state, we will realize the state of dying. It must be like this. We will know how to die. Everyone must come to this point. No one can escape because everyone must die. This truth is unchangeable, whether one realizes it or not. It is so. 7. Being aware of the movements of the body and the mind can lead us to this point, the end of suffering. This is the path to walk by oneself. It is the one and only path. This path is different from others. You will realize Rupnam objects within 5 to 10 days, if you practice earnestly. One who practices seriously, within 1 to 3 months, his state of mind will change. It is the beginning of the path. If you are a conscientious man, no longer than 3 years, you will attain the end of suffering. For one who is not serious enough, it is useless even after 10 years. I have challenged many people to practice. More or less, some must have realized. Warning. You should not practice according to your own content, opinion or thought. In order to make your practice progress, you should be obedient to the instruction of the craftsman, the teacher. You should avoid talking to each other, and refrain from taking all kinds of addictive things, such as cigarettes, tea, coffee, etc., otherwise your mind will be attached to them. You should practice with determination. Do not deceive yourself. Do not sit still. Keep doing rhythmic movements continuously. Do not concentrate. Practice with ease. Open your eyes. Let thoughts arise freely, do not suppress them. For this method, you will see, know, and understand this way, see appendix. If you see other than this, it is not correct.
To one that feels. The teaching of Luangpor Teean. Then it will not rain hard on that. Today is an important day, that we gather to listen to my talk on truth. What I am going to talk about is what I experienced. I have practiced it, and the result it has given me is that I have no doubts. All of you here want no dukkha, suffering, like myself I suppose. In reality, in actuality, there is no dukkha, we suffer only because we don't know it. All of you listening to my talk right now have no dosa, anger, no lopha, greed, and no moha, delusion. The origin of the mind of human beings in every nation and of every language is as such. Please set up the mind to listen, and bring it into practice. First of all, we have to practice awareness. Most people do not understand, so they try to find calmness, but without success. I did that also. I sought calmness, but I didn't know where calmness was. Now I would like to talk about another kind of calmness. The calmness of freedom from not knowing, because we know and because we are alert. The calmness of freedom from uncalm, of freedom from doubt, because when we practice the correct method of awareness we will know the supposition of everything there is in the world, because the awareness of ourself will bring panya, knowing. There are 4 kinds of panya, knowing by memorizing, knowing by recognizing, clearly knowing, and really knowing. And all these panya are in every person. Sajja means truth. There are 4 levels of knowing Dhamma, to know Samyati Sajja, conventional truth, Paramatha Sajja, directly contacted truth, Athasajja, the deep truth, and Ariya Sajja, the fundamentally transforming truth. And this can make anybody become a noble individual, regardless of social class or language. The first step is Sotapanya, the second step, Sakadagami, the third step, Anagami, and the fourth step, Arahant, the 4 stages in the change from being hopelessly deceived to fully freed. Now in the beginning stage of practice, we know Vatu, thingness, we know Paramatha, mind touchable, we know Akara, change in Jess. The mind will change to be Ariya, noble, because we have clearly seen the source of dosa, moha, lopha, anger, delusion, greed, and then clearly known the source of Vedana, sunya, sankhara, vijnana, feeling, percept, conceiving, knowingness. This is called to clearly know and to really know with jnana panya, the knowledge of full awareness knowing, that arises from the developing of sati, awareness. Next, we use sati to see the mind, panya will arise, and we will know the source of kilesa, defilement, stickiness, tanha, craving, heaviness, upadana, attachment, and kama, action. Next, use sati to see the mind again, whatever thought arises see it immediately, and we will know the deception, know in time, know the protection and know the cure. We will know how to conquer conceptual thought. Sila, moral conduct, will occur within our own mind. It is not the person who observes sila, but sila observes the person. Sila means normality. Whenever the mind thinks abnormally we see the thought immediately, this is called sila observing us. People who only keep the precepts will not know this mind's occurrence. So sila is a tool to get rid of crude kilesa, to destroy dosa, moha, lopa, to destroy kilesa, tanha, and upadana. Then sila appears. Samadhi, steadiness of the mind, setting up the mind, is the tool to get rid of the median kilesa. Median kilesa is the attachment to calmness. I have done breathing meditation, which brings calmness, but it is the kind of calmness dependent upon moha. I did that because I didn't know the real calmness at that time. Now I know calmness. Real calmness is clearly seeing, really knowing, and really understanding. This kind of calmness, everyone can do it when they know the source of moha. Whether you are a teacher, student, merchant, or homemaker, you can do it. Everybody needs calmness, and this kind of calmness, whatever kind of work you do you still have it, because you know the source of moha. We don't have to sit with eyes closed to get calmness, but we can have calmness in this very society. Whenever conceiving thought arises, samadhi will see it immediately. Samadhi doesn't mean to sit with eyes closed. Samadhi means setting up the mind to see our own mind, to see our own work. Now panya gets rid of the subtle kilesa. We know the subtle kilesa when we know the source of thought whenever it arises. Whatever we do now, we have normality in speech and mind. When all these conditions gather, there will arise a kind of jnana, insight knowledge, and it will break apart from the person. Only the one that practices will know. All of you sitting here now have as yet no jnana, but the non-suffering and non-happiness is already there. When we don't have jnana we don't know it, so we seek calmness. Now, as you are sitting here, look at your own mind. You don't have jealousy, ill will, and aggression, now your mind is indifferent, not suffering and not happy, beyond good and evil. This state is in everybody, and this is the calmness that everyone is seeking. Somebody who doesn't know comes to teach people. A lot of people follow that person and sit with eyes closed, trying to find calmness. This is trying to get something that doesn't really exist, trying to make something that cannot be real become real. It is impossible. So that is only the state of delusion. Now we come to know the real thing. It is called upekha, indifference, equanimity. It is our own mind. It is like something that is covered over. Now, when we come to see our own mind, it will be revealed. So we don't have to do anything with calmness, because it is already there. The only thing we have to do is know the method of practice. The method of practice is to know the movements of the body. We don't have to watch the movements of our breathing, we have to know the movements of the physical body and then see the movement of the mind. Breathing is never glad or sad, it never hates anybody or likes anybody. What is angry is the mind that is thinking. What is pleased is also the mind that is thinking. So we come to see only this point. To see this point is to be aware of thought. In order to see thought, don't enter thought. As soon as it thinks, detach from thought, like a cat catching a rat. We don't have to teach the cat to catch rats, but whenever a rat comes the cat will get it. The clear knowing and real knowing is the same thing. Most people understand Vipassana only as memorizing and recognizing. Very few know clearly and know really. Anyone that will clearly know and really know must make an effort always. Wherever they go they always watch thought, going to the toilet, eating food, whatever they do they look at thought. When we watch thought a lot, like a cat watching for rats, then when thought arises sati or Vipassana will clearly see immediately. This is called Vipassana, getting rid of the subtle kilesa. When we come to this point it is like the hidden thing is revealed, and we will know all religion, we will see with self-understanding the teaching of any religion. We will understand Hinduism or Christianity. We don't understand now because we just memorize from the texts. That is only a kind of history. Now we come to study at ourselves. Reality is in us. Texts are only the words of other people. We come to see our own mind, and we will be another knowing individual. I will stop now. Anyone that has questions can ask. Audience. Luangpor teaches that when we go to the toilet we also watch thought. Shall we watch our walking, or shall we watch thought, or what shall we watch? Luangpor. Thought arises even when we do not pay attention to it. So when it arises we will see it, we will know it, we will understand it. If we pay too much attention trying to see it, it will not think. So we should practice in an indifferent, detached way. When it thinks we will know. Samadhi is also awareness. When you are aware of yourself, that is samadhi. When it thinks and you see thought, that is samadhi. Audience. When I sit I can watch the thought, but when I walk to the toilet and intend to see the thought, when thought arises should I stop walking and see the thought, or what should I do? Luangpor. You don't have to stop walking, just be aware of yourself. When we are aware of ourself, that is samadhi. Whatever movement we make we will know it. Unintended thought will arise by itself. If we do not see it we will attach to it, and this is dukkha. So we come to know the cause of dukkha. Normally our mind is indifferent. It can think without dukkha, and we know that it thinks without dukkha, but when we do not see thought we follow thought, we enter the cave, and that is dukkha. To see thought is difficult for somebody who doesn't understand, but it is easy for one that understands. To see thought doesn't concern any kind of work. We can write, and when thought arises we see it. When we walk to the bathroom, or when we are bathing, and it thinks, we just see it. So we don't have to do anything with calmness, because calmness is already there. The real calmness is when we see thought. Audience. So we don't have to stop thinking. Luangpor. Right. Just watch the movement of the mind. Don't force the mind not to think, don't try to prevent or force the mind not to think, don't try to prevent or get rid of thought. Many people want to tranquilize the mind, they don't want the mind to think. That is the understanding of others. But in my view we should let the mind think. The more it thinks the more we know. It is like when we dig a new well, the water is at first full of dirt. So we have to empty out the water, bucketful after bucketful. We don't have to stop up the hole out of which the water is flowing, but we let the water flow, as much water as possible, and we continue emptying out the dirty water. We clean the edge of the well and continue emptying out the water. We do it again and again. We do it until all the dirt is gone and the water flowing out of the hole is clear and pure. If anything were now to fall into the well we should see it and know it immediately. So we don't have to stop the mind from thinking. Sometimes it thinks this, sometimes it thinks that, but we just see it immediately, like cat catching rat, and the more it thinks the more we empty it out. When thought arises we see it, that is the important thing. Audience. When we sleep and when we are awake, do we watch thought in the same way? Luangpor. The same. When we cannot see thought, when thought arises during the day we don't know it. At night when we dream, we also don't know it. Now, when we see thought wherever we go, when thought arises we know it. At night we sleep, and when it thinks we also know it. Audience. I am still puzzled. Should we see thought or should we see ourselves? Luangpor. They are the same. We can call it seeing thought, and we are also aware of ourself at the same time. Audience. I would like Luangpor to explain the difference between knowing thought and seeing thought. Luangpor. When we know thought we enter into thought, and thought still continues, it doesn't stop. But when we see thought, when thought arises it stops immediately. So we should practice often to see thought. There will arise yana ganyat. Do it like boxers. Every boxer wants to be world champion. Boxers need to be very quick. Dosa, moha, lopa is quick in one way, sati, samadhi, panya is quick in another way. When we train sati samadhi panya, to be very very quick, it will be world champion, it will conquer the world. This conscious body is the world. Do we want dosa, moha, lopa, or sati, samadhi, panya, to rule the world? If dosa, moha, lopa rules the world, it is a world of endless sorrow, endless dukkha. If sati, samadhi, panya, rules the world, it is a world of radiance and peace. Audience. When we watch our movements and thought arises, how can we know it? Luangpor. If you want to know, you have to practice yourself. Audience. Is discovery of calmness the same as discovery of oneself? Luangpor. Yes. Audience. If we can find calmness within ourselves, how can we keep it with us all the time? Luangpor. It is there all the time. What is not there all the time is not calmness. Audience. People have kamma and kamma disturbs us. So how can we be calm? Luangpor. No, not in that way. We just think ourselves. Kamma just means action, not those kinds of kamma that you did in the previous life. Audience. If we don't think about kamma then there is no kamma, is there? Luangpor. Right, we don't have to think of it. Audience. People are seeking the same thing, but why are there so many thoughts? Luangpor. Because there are many different teachings, many books, much talking, so all are mixed up, and this causes suffering. This way of calmness doesn't concern studying books. It doesn't concern anything. When we read many books, or listen to many teachers, we only have knowledge for talking, so we don't have the experience of the real calmness. Audience. How can it be there all the time? Luangpor. If we add colored dye to water, people say that the water is red, or the water is black, or whatever color it is. But in reality water is colorless, and if what is not water is removed then we see it. Upekkha is the mind's natural state. It is present in everybody without exception. When somebody becomes very angry, upekkha anchors that person just like a ship's anchor and therefore they don't die of shock. When somebody becomes very very greedy and would like to take a great deal away from others, upekkha is like a ball and chain, holding back and moderating the greed, so that it doesn't totally unbalance that person. So upekkha is already there, we don't have to seek it. It is like the sun when it is hidden by clouds. Dosa, moha, lopa, when it arises, obscures upekkha. But when we clearly see our mind, upekkha is uncovered. Audience. Luangpor said that gladness and sadness are the same thing. How can they be the same? Luangpor. They are dukkha. Gladness is one kind of dukkha, sadness is another kind of dukkha. Unknowing people live with dukkha, eat with dukkha, walk and stand and sit with dukkha, sleep with dukkha, wherever they go they bring dukkha along. When they see a movie they laugh, laughter is a form of dukkha. When they meet with sadness they cry, crying is a form of dukkha. Gladness and sadness, both of them are forms of dukkha. Just so, I imagine that there are two kinds of darkness, white darkness and black darkness. When we earn a lot of money we are glad. That is dukkha. It is the white darkness. When we lose money we are sad and the mind thinks angry thoughts. This is also dukkha. It is the black darkness. But both are dukkha. Audience. In reality there is no gladness or sadness, they just arise from moha, don't they? Luangpor. Just like that. Audience. Luangpor said that all kinds of gladness are dukkha. Is there some kind of gladness that is not dukkha, for example love between husband and wife? Luangpor. All are dukkha. Audience. How about gladness in Dhamma, or sometimes when we look at the sunshine we feel happy? Luangpor. That is not dukkha, not suffering or happiness, not gladness or sadness. It is indifference, equanimity. Audience. I would like Luangpor to explain the thing that is called love. For example, a woman and man who are going to get married. Luangpor. Somebody who doesn't know dukkha will approach dukkha, and dukkha will teach its lesson. Audience. When we see thought, it stops. So during which time do we see the three characteristics, anicca, dukkha, and anatta? Do we see them when we see thought, or before seeing thought, or when we think of them? Luangpor. When we think of them that is not seeing with jnana-panya, it is just memorizing or recognizing. After we clearly know and really know we don't have to ask anyone. Audience. How about the intention to do something? Suppose that somebody says something bad to us, and we have the intention to harm them. Luangpor. To harm is stupid. When we know the states of suffering and of happiness, we do not want anybody to suffer. We will help all to live without dukkha. Audience. When I am going to give money to beggar I know my thought, which is to give money. To see that thought, is that called panya? Luangpor. That is not called panya, it is called knowing from memory. All of us have mind, so before doing or saying anything just look at our mind. Our real mind or real life doesn't hate anybody and doesn't love anybody. When we hate or we love, that is kilesa arising. So just come to see the mind at the beginning, and dosa, moha, lopa will be destroyed. After that, Vedana, Sunya, Sankhara, Vijnana, will still be there, but they are pure and have no dukkha. Continue to see the mind. We will see kilesa. Kilesa is like gladness and sadness. When we like something and we give it to somebody, it isn't that this is not kilesa, because we like the person that we give it to, we give it with kilesa, we don't give with indifference. Pra, venerable, noble, is indifference. Pra means one that teaches others to be indifferent. Audience. When we give charity we usually think of metta, loving kindness, and karuna, compassion. So where is karuna and where is metta? Luangpor. Those are just words for talking. It is not Dhamma. It is social. Audience. If we don't have metta and karuna, how can we have the motive to do good for others? Luangpor. That is the beginning stage, or the foundation for ethics of the world. Audience. In the case of Luangpor, who is trying to help us to be free from dukkha, isn't it the metta of Luangpor? Luangpor. Not metta. Anybody that would like to have Dhamma, just accept it. We don't have gladness or sadness. It is like when we see someone that is drowning, we jump into the water and help them without thinking anything. Audience. When that person sees someone drowning and helps immediately, is it the result of social ethics or is it their own nature? Luangpor. It is their own nature. But when we try to help other people we don't see our mind, but the nature of the mind is already there, the indifference is already there, we never come to see it and we try some other way. That is why we don't have real calmness.
May all beings be at ease, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be at ease.